Firstly, I suppose I have a question. What's the difference between that and just visualizing? Who are you talking to in manifesting? Help us understand this a bit better.
Yes, great question. And this is why it's complex, because for some people, manifesting is just a self-help tool and they would see it like that. Although even to those people, I would ask the question of what is the deeper belief underneath what you're doing? Is it just you have a dream of a future reality that you want to happen, and then you're putting things in place to make that happen? So you're setting goals and you're achieving them. That I would say, okay, that's a normal way of living your life. But if it's I believe that if I think about this enough, it will happen, I'd say that's a deeply spiritual belief. Even if you just see it as a self-help tool, you in communicating it like that, even if you would say, I'm not talking to the universe, I'm not connecting with a higher power, you by saying, if I think about something, it might happen, is saying my thoughts can control and change the outcome of my life. And based on what I do or don't think about, that will dictate my life direction. And then, of course, manifesting then does go into a deeply spiritual and obviously spiritual sense where lots of people would manifest to the universe. And it's this simply the idea that if you think about something enough or write something down enough, that it will happen. Whatever you think about will happen.
And when you say it will happen, as in the universe will deliver that to you, essentially.
The universe will give you exactly what you want. So it comes from the idea of like law of attraction. What you put out into the universe is returned back to you. And so when those things then don't happen, it becomes crippling to the person who's manifested, because it's like, well, you haven't done enough. You haven't manifested enough. You haven't done enough in your mind to then make this thing happen. So it's sort of a cycle that you can get stuck in.
I think that's really helpful, because I think the sports visualization one, I can imagine people doing that, and that's part of what often higher end sports people do. They visualize the outcome. I visualize myself running a marathon, and it's a wonderful time. I dread to think what that time is. But that then, so you're moving through, there's a kind of spectrum here of somebody saying, I mean, he's overtly said he's manifested that goal, or she's talked about manifesting being on stage at Glastonbury. And then you can move to the kind of literally speaking to the universe and calling that into being. And then the attractional thing I've heard about before. So you do, it's good things come to good. You think good things, good positive thoughts bring positive outcomes.
Yeah, totally. And I think it is so different to visualization, because I definitely get that with sports as well. Like I'm into like triathlon stuff, and would think about the whole race and would visualize myself going through each of the stages. And that's a really helpful thing in like any sort of athletic thing, is to be able to visualize it, or anything, imagining yourself doing a presentation that can help with nerves. But manifestation is different, because it's about control, and it's about your thoughts are controlling then the reality of what's happened. It's not a preparation for something to happen. It's not, I'm just dreaming about being at Glastonbury. It's I'm thinking this into being. I'm willing this into being. If I think this, the universe will give it to me. And some people would say, well, manifesting is just like prayer. Christians pray. Isn't that the same as manifesting?
I was about to ask you that very question, just to get that distinction. But it is about where the centre of orientation is, presumably.
Exactly. So in prayer, we are communicating to the God who made us and loves us and knows us and wants to hear from us. And when I pray, I'm sure you have this as well, Peter, oftentimes if I'm praying and asking God, for something or processing something with God will then change my dreams and the things that I'm praying for or, asking for or whatever. And it's a conversation with God. It's not me trying to bend God's arm to give me what I want and desire. It's, God, you're totally in control. Your will be done. Your kingdom come, not my kingdom. Whereas manifesting is my will be done, my kingdom come, what I want.
So prayer is very much about bringing our will and desire into alignment with God's will and desire. Manifesting is all about either the universe giving us what we want or us, and that's one of the big pressures, isn't it? Because it's all on us. There's nobody else to kind of blame. Maybe the universe if you want to go there, but fundamentally then you haven't done enough. You haven't put out enough good positive energy. So it puts this huge burden on the individual. which is another massive challenge in terms of manifesting.
But I think these are the times we're living in. Real spiritual curiosity, but this form of spirituality is so counterfeit and it leaves people longing and wanting. So we have a real opportunity.
Okay, yeah, so you've really highlighted that opportunity piece, absolutely. And I guess, like, what are some of the challenges for us? What's the need for discernment for those of us often within the church? Maybe we're seeing people starting to come in who have engaged in this space. I know I was speaking in my own church and I mentioned this, and then a lady came straight up afterwards and said, yes, she was working in a women's refuge where somebody else was trying to bring in the kind of manifesting crystals to help the woman. That's the way the lady would have described it in their journey, I suppose, to help them kind of psychologically and to take them on their journey. And her initial thing was she absolutely could see the problem, but she didn't almost know what to do about it. As the Christian lady it's also volunteering in that space. And then our own prayer team were beginning to think, well, hold on, if we're praying into this, like, we're engaging in spiritual warfare in this. I mean, people, they are dabbling in the occult here, just to be clear. Dabbling is probably not a helpful phrase again. They are engaging in the occult. Witch talk is taking you into those spaces. So people are coming with baggage, and this is significant stuff to kind of process through. So I suppose just helping us think, how do we minister with this huge opportunity, people interested? I think if I've heard you, the first thing is when you hear people talk crystals manifesting, don't shy away. Go, oh, this is you're open, you're curious, but there are some things going on in the background to be alert to, probably.
Yeah, and it's not just new believers or people who are exploring coming into church with this baggage, although that is a huge thing. It's also some of the younger disciples in our churches who are seeing this content online. It's so appealing. It's so compelling. When I speak at different youth festivals and I talk about any of this stuff, the youth leaders, well, I think the youth leaders are more clued up now, but I remember the first time a few years ago I mentioned manifesting, the youth leaders were like, what? And all the kids were like, isn't that just prayer? Like, that's kind of what I've been doing. I'm like, no, it's totally different, man. So I think it's cluing ourselves up so that we can disciple the people in our church well as well, because I think a lot of younger Christians do find this stuff quite appealing and compelling, and we just need to talk about it and mention it in churches. But of course, whenever someone has engaged with anything occult, there needs to be a conversation about deliverance. And I know that from lots of the people I've spoken to who are very much in this world, were like totally in the spirituality world, for them deliverance isn't a weird thing. They're like, oh, we knew that we needed deliverance because that, you know, we then saw it was dark when we encountered the light of Christ. And so we knew that we needed deliverance from the dark. And they would then go to whatever church they had then joined and said, we need deliverance. And the church would go, we don't know
how to do that. What's that? We're nervous about that.
What do we do? Yeah. So whatever that looks like in different people's contexts, just developing a theology around deliverance, I think would be a very wise thing to do in this time, and having those conversations.
And just having people ready if you're in a prayer ministry space, whether that's like at the front of church, some are more familiar with that, or whether that's the intercessors who are wrestling in that space. One, I think being able to name that from the stage sometimes in a youth environment or in a church setting, because this is real. People are looking at this stuff. Let's be aware of it and know about it. And then preparing teams who might be ministering, whatever that looks like, to be able to pray into that. And for some, I do think they need to know a little bit more. They need to be maybe reading up or finding out a bit more about how, within their tradition, whatever that might look like, you're going to engage with the principalities and powers in this, because the occult has a hold. It's a darkness thing. Jesus has absolutely defeated that. But we need to understand what we mean by that and what we're going to do to minister into that. It's not just a matter of, some people will immediately see that transformation, and that might be instantaneous, but for others that might be a longer journey. And I think being alert to that, because one of our colleagues was talking about a lady who'd come through the manifesting route, turned up at church, brilliant, encountered Jesus. It was literally the voice about the universe. She heard this voice say, stop calling me the universe, start calling me God. Came to church. But he also said a few months down the line, there was still a bit of managing the whole Jesus and bits of the previous life. And it was just the ability to keep picking that up in discipleship that might take a little bit longer, because some will have been immersed in this for quite a while, and we need to be alert to the hold that it can have. A hold that has been defeated by Jesus, but that doesn't mean that it instantly moves in their life.